You can't control what happens, but you can train how you respond, and that's everything. A storm does not ask for permission before it breaks the sky open. Neither does life. Tragedy arrives uninvited. Failure, humiliation, betrayal. These are not rare visitors, but part of the regular procession of human experience. Most people, when struck, react. They collapse into blame, flinch at discomfort, scream at what they cannot change. But the Stoic stands still, not because the Stoic feels nothing, but because he has trained for everything. Emotional control is not the absence of feeling. It is the sharpening of perception. It is the disciplined refusal to let emotion hijack judgment. And in a world where every impulse is validated, every offense is magnified, and every opinion is weaponized, emotional control becomes a form of rebellion, a superpower forged not in fantasy, but in fire. Consider this: the one thing that is truly yours, the only thing you were born to govern, is your faculty of reason. You cannot bend the will of others. You cannot rearrange the weather. You cannot delay death or guarantee success. But you can rule over the space between what happens and how you act. That space is sacred. It is the birthplace of freedom. To govern that space is to cultivate the inner citadel, as Marcus Aurelius called it, the fortress within the soul, not made of stone but of stillness, not defended by walls but by reason. When chaos screams at your gates, the citadel does not tremble. When pleasure tempts or pain punishes, the citadel does not beg or break. It endures. And endurance, in Stoic terms, is not passivity. It is power held in reserve. You may think that to feel deeply is to live fully, but depth is not found in drowning. The Stoics did not deny emotion. They denied its rule. Like a rider mastering a wild horse, they acknowledged passion, but never surrendered the reins. For what is a man who cannot restrain his rage, his lust, his fear? A slave. And Stoicism is nothing if not the study of freedom. You have been taught to express everything, to speak every frustration, to share every surge of grief, to let it out. But the Stoic asks, to what end? Does venting anger remove its cause? Does shouting restore order? Or does it merely strengthen the habit of impulsive reaction? There is a silence that is cowardice, but there is also a silence that is strength, one that sees, absorbs, calculates, and chooses the most rational response, not the most satisfying one. To control your emotions is not to suppress them into shadow. It is to illuminate them with understanding. The Stoic learns to observe every sensation like a passing cloud. Anxiety rises. He watches. Pride swells. He watches. Envy bites. He watches. And because he watches, he does not obey. Because he does not obey, he remains free, detached not from life, but from illusion. Detachment is often misunderstood for indifference, but indifference is dullness. Detachment is clarity. Imagine standing in a burning building. To panic is natural, but to calmly find the exit, to carry others, to make decisions with a cool head, that is not coldness. That is the highest form of care. Stoic detachment is not apathy. It is effectiveness. It removes the fog of fear so the path becomes visible. And yet, you live in an age that rewards reactivity. Outrage wins attention. Emotion is monetized. Opinions are currency. Everyone is told to speak first, think later, or never. But where most chase stimulation, the Stoic seeks composure. Where most react, the Stoic reflects.
Where most perform, the Stoic prepares. This preparation is daily. The mind, like the body, requires training. You are not born with discipline. You build it. You are not granted calm. You forge it in discomfort. And every moment of agitation, every spark of irritation, every unexpected disruption is an opportunity, a test of sovereignty, a proving ground for inner mastery. The Stoic sees every obstacle as a mirror. What disturbs you reveals what still controls you. The angry driver, the rude stranger, the delayed plan, none of these have power unless you hand it to them. You will be insulted, you will be misunderstood, you will be wronged. But whether those events define you or refine you depends entirely on your response. Emotional control is not glamorous. It does not earn applause. It is invisible, but it is unshakable.
The Stoics understood that every emotion begins as a judgment, not a random burst of feeling, but an interpretation. You are not angry because of what was said. You are angry because you judged it to be offensive. You are not afraid because of the unknown. You fear because you judged it as dangerous. Emotion, then, is not separate from reason. It is reason twisted by immediacy and ego. To reclaim your mind, you must first challenge these judgments. Epictetus taught that nothing external can harm you unless you allow it to disturb your judgment. That means the insult only stings if you agree with it. The rejection only breaks you if your self-worth was anchored to it. The failure only destroys you if you saw it as the end, not as instruction. This is the hidden discipline, the constant pruning of your inner garden, weeding out irrational thoughts, trimming back the overgrowth of assumption, entitlement, and fantasy. The Stoic does not trust his first emotion. He pauses. He examines. Is this true? Is it necessary? Is it mine to control? Most often the answer is no, and in that no, there is release. To train emotional control is to step outside the theater of reaction. Most people live on stage, acting out every urge, every slight, every desire. They become actors in a drama they did not write, with scripts handed to them by fear, pride, or pain. But the Stoic retreats into the audience, watching his own performance from above. From that place, he rewrites the script. But this is not detachment for detachment's sake. It is not about becoming less human, but about becoming more whole. You begin to see how much of your energy is wasted on what does not matter. You begin to see how often your peace is traded for petty opinions. The look on someone's face, a message left unread, a plan that changes, these become the chains that bind the undisciplined soul. And so the Stoic cuts them. He cuts not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. He knows that to carry every weight is to drown in shallow water, that to absorb every insult is to bleed from invisible wounds. So he selects his battles with precision. He does not waste his sword on shadows. You too have this power, but it must be chosen, not imagined. Every time you restrain your reaction, you carve a deeper groove of mastery. Every time you respond with principle rather than pride, you strengthen your foundation. Over time, what once agitated you now amuses you. What once rattled you now rolls off like rain. But this is not numbness. It is clarity. It is the calm that comes from knowing you are not owed an easy life, not entitled to agreement, not in control of others, only of your own soul. It is the calm that does not resist adversity, but absorbs it, studies it, uses it. Seneca once wrote, "You may be sure that you are at peace with yourself when no noise reaches you, when no word shakes you out of yourself,
whether it be flattery or threat, or merely empty sound buzzing around you. He was not describing perfection, but preparedness, the readiness of a mind that does not need external calm to remain composed. This readiness is rare and therefore powerful. It makes you unpredictable in the best way. Others may try to provoke, manipulate, distract, but you do not flinch. You are no longer a puppet tied to the strings of circumstance. You walk through fire without catching flame. But this level of control is not gifted. It is built through friction, and it begins in small moments when you are interrupted, misunderstood, underestimated. These are your training grounds. They do not look heroic, but each time you hold the line, each time you pause, breathe, choose reason over reaction, you fortify the citadel. Let others chase validation. Let others compete for outrage. Your task is different. Your task is to become unshakable, not through force, but through freedom. The freedom that comes from not needing to react, from not needing to win, from not needing anyone to behave differently in order for you to remain composed. That is emotional control. And in a world addicted to immediacy, to impulsiveness, to spectacle, it makes you extraordinary.
The world will not slow down for you. It will not quiet itself out of respect for your anxiety, nor pause to soothe your overthinking. It will keep spinning, louder, faster, more chaotic. The Stoic does not beg it to stop. He trains to walk calmly within its storm. Most people are controlled by what they want and what they fear. They tremble at the thought of being ignored, criticized, excluded, misunderstood. And so they become reactive, always chasing, always defending, always grasping at emotional reassurance. But the one who practices Stoicism learns a different law. Freedom is not found in getting what you want, but in wanting less. To want less is not to settle. It is to clean the lens through which you see the world. It is to untangle your desires from your ego. A Stoic does not crave control over others. He masters control over himself. He does not hope for ease. He sharpens endurance. He does not expect the world to cater to his emotions. He prepares his emotions to withstand the world. Imagine the strength required to be calm while everyone else panics, to remain rational while others scream, to hold silence when attacked. This is not repression, it is discipline, a discipline that few pursue because it requires sacrifice. It means giving up the temporary pleasure of being right, of retaliating, of indulging the ego. But in that sacrifice lies lasting peace. Seneca warned, "He who is angry is not only made wretched by the passion itself, but also by its consequences." An uncontrolled emotion leads to an uncontrolled life, fractured relationships, poor decisions, and regret that lingers longer than the emotion ever did. But when you pause, even for a breath, you create space, and in that space, a wiser choice can emerge. You are not your first thought. You are not your immediate reaction. Those are impulses, shadows of conditioning. Who you are is revealed in what you do after, in your ability to pause, to interrogate the thought, to respond with intention. That moment of pause is the battleground where character is forged. This is why the Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of misfortune, not to wallow in dread, but to prepare the mind. They visualized insult, poverty, sickness, betrayal, death, not as pessimists, but as warriors. Because if you can meet life's worst without panic, then life's daily irritations lose their sting. You become immune to trivial offenses.
But in modern life, where comfort is abundant and discomfort is pathologized, this mental armor is rare. Every slight becomes personal. Every inconvenience feels unjust. Every delay is a crisis. The Stoic mindset is the antidote to this fragility. It replaces complaint with courage, reaction with reflection, entitlement with endurance. You may think emotional control makes you rigid, but the Stoic is not stone. He is steel, flexible yet unbreakable, able to bend with circumstance yet return to form. This is not coldness, it is resilience. True control is fluid. It adapts, it studies the opponent, and strikes only when it serves a higher principle. Anything else is just emotional noise. And it is in this silence, this absence of unnecessary reaction, that you begin to see clearly, not just the world, but yourself. You begin to see the stories you've told yourself, the expectations you've clung to, the invisible strings that pulled you like a puppet. And one by one, you begin to sever them. You do not need to respond to every emotion. You do not need to explain your calm. You do not need to win every argument. Your power lies in your refusal to be moved by what is not worth your energy. In that refusal, there is peace. Not a peace that comes from perfect circumstances, but a peace that cannot be taken because it was never dependent on anything external. That is what makes it powerful. That is what makes it untouchable. The modern world may never reward this kind of composure, but it will feel its presence. It will notice when you do not react like the others, when you do not crave what they crave, when you remain still in a room full of noise. That stillness will speak louder than any emotion ever could.
The greatest victories are often invisible. No applause echoes when you swallow your anger instead of unleashing it. No crowd cheers when you resist the urge to defend your pride. And yet, these are the conquests that shape the strongest character, the silent triumphs of emotional mastery. Most are ruled by their feelings because they confuse emotion with identity. I feel, therefore I am. But this is not the Stoic path. Emotion is part of experience, not the master of it. You feel anger, but you are not anger. You feel fear, but you are not fear. The Stoic knows that feelings are visitors. They knock on the door, but they do not own the house. You may acknowledge their arrival, but you decide who stays. This power of discernment is what separates the free from the reactive. For a reactive mind is always enslaved. One insult can ruin the day. One piece of bad news can ruin the month. One fear can shrink a life. But when the mind is trained, when it becomes disciplined and deliberate, these things lose their grip. They become background noise, not commands. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of an empire, and yet a student of his own soul, wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." At first glance, it seems too simple, but that is the nature of truth. It does not need decoration. It challenges you. It places responsibility where it belongs, not on the world, but on you. And that responsibility is not a burden, it is liberation. If nothing outside your reason can truly disturb you, then nothing owns you. Not praise, not blame, not success, not loss. You begin to live by inner principles, not external conditions. That is rare, and what is rare becomes powerful. Think of the last time you overreacted, the last time your temper got the better of you, or anxiety hijacked your thoughts. In that moment, you were not free. You were not in control. You were being moved,
like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Now imagine cutting those strings, slowly, one by one, until your actions align with reason, not impulse. That is the Stoic way. It is not quick, it is not easy, but it is permanent. The more you train, the more familiar the path becomes. You begin to recognize emotional triggers before they explode. You begin to feel the first spark of irritation, but not throw fuel on the fire. You begin to choose your words like a craftsman, not a brawler. And the world, though still chaotic, feels less dangerous because you are no longer at its mercy. This is not detachment for pride. This is detachment for clarity. There is a kind of peace that can only be found by those who have stood in the furnace and not flinched, not because they are immune, but because they are prepared. The Stoic does not pray for fewer problems. He prepares for stronger responses. And those responses are rooted in reason. When emotion pulls one way and principle pulls another, the Stoic holds the line. Because the self is not defined by how he feels, but by how he acts in spite of how he feels. This creates an inner coherence, a unity of character. No longer scattered across the reactions of the day, no longer spinning in the opinions of others, the Stoic becomes centered, like the axis of a turning wheel. Motion surrounds him, but he is still. That stillness is not emptiness. It is power contained. And in that power, there is quiet confidence, the confidence of a man who does not need to explain himself to everyone, the confidence of a woman who does not need to prove her worth through argument. It is the confidence of one who governs the self, and by doing so, remains ungoverned by the world. The final test of emotional control is not whether you feel nothing, but whether you choose what to feel and when and why. To grieve with dignity, to correct with compassion, to face insult with indifference. These are not signs of coldness, they are signs of strength, earned through discipline. And in an era where outrage is currency and attention is stolen by the loudest voice, the one who can remain calm becomes sovereign, not over others, but over the only kingdom that matters, the self.
There is a phrase repeated by the Stoics: bear and forbear. Endure what must be endured. Resist what must be resisted. These are not passive instructions. They are the foundation of emotional strength. To bear is to remain unmoved by pain. To forbear is to restrain yourself from reaction, even when the world invites you to lose control. And the world invites you often. It feeds you reasons to be offended, to be outraged, to be loud. It monetizes your weakness and sells your attention. The Stoic sees through this. He does not waste his energy on proving himself. He is not interested in winning arguments or correcting every misconception. He knows that a reaction is a form of surrender. It hands over control to the external, to the irrelevant, to the unstable. Instead, he conserves his strength. Like a disciplined soldier, he does not unsheath his sword for every provocation. His silence is not defeat, it is command. It is the conscious choice to remain aligned with reason, to preserve his inner order in a world of disorder. This is the essence of emotional control. It is not a lack of feeling, but a mastery of form. Emotions arise, and they will. The mind, the body, the past, they all have currents that stir us. But the trained soul does not follow every current. It does not crash against every shore. It watches, it waits, and then it chooses. You do not have to act on every feeling. This is the gateway to freedom. When you realize that a thought is just a thought, that a feeling is just a signal, not a command, then you reclaim your sovereignty. You are no longer being lived by your emotions. You are living with them, on your terms. Imagine standing in the middle of a battlefield, not of war, but of minds. All around you are people fighting shadows, their own fears, their pride, their imagined slights. They shout, they demand, they crumble under the weight of their own egos. And there you are, still, watching, choosing, enduring. Not because you are above them, but because you have trained for it. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet his greatest empire was within. While others feared death, he contemplated it. While others chased luxury, he practiced simplicity. While others reacted to criticism, he studied it for truth. This was not indifference. It was order, inner order. And from that order came clarity. And from that clarity, peace. You are not meant to be numb. You are meant to be precise. The Stoic does not live in gray apathy. He lives in sharp awareness. He feels, but he filters. He listens, but he does not obey blindly. His emotions are messengers, not rulers. His thoughts are tools, not tyrants. And with this orientation comes strength, a strength that is quiet, invisible. It does not flash, it does not boast, but it is there when tested. In the middle of loss, in the heat of conflict, in the face of uncertainty. It does not crumble because it was not built on approval, or comfort, or illusion. It was built on reason. Seneca once asked, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." He did not mean to despair, he meant to accept. Life is hard, it will hurt, you will be misunderstood, betrayed, forgotten, underestimated. These are not exceptions, these are the cost of admission to the human experience. But to the Stoic, these are not reasons to fall apart, they are reasons to hold firm. Because your value does not lie in how others see you, or what fate brings. It lies in how you carry yourself. And if you can carry yourself with dignity through humiliation, with patience through injustice, with grace through pain, then you are not only free, you are powerful. This is emotional control. It does not eliminate suffering, but it eliminates unnecessary suffering, the kind born from resistance, from entitlement, from impulsive reaction. It replaces it with a calm, rational endurance, not because you are suppressing life, but because you are finally responding to it with full awareness. And in that response, in that gap between stimulus and action, you find your highest power, the ability to remain untouched, even while walking through fire.
The final stage of emotional control is not suppression, it is transmutation. The Stoic does not merely hold his emotions at bay like a dam holds back water. He redirects them. He turns anger into justice, fear into preparation, grief into perspective. Each emotion, when brought under the governance of reason, becomes useful. It becomes fuel, not flame. This is not about becoming robotic or cold. The Stoic is not a statue, unmoved by life. He is alive, deeply so, but with intention.
He does not let emotion become the architect of his actions. Emotion may enter the room, but reason sits at the head of the table. That is the law of the inner citadel. Emotion serves, it does not rule. Most people crumble because they've never been taught to bear discomfort without reacting. They've never practiced silence in the face of insult, stillness in the face of chaos, discipline in the presence of craving. And so they live like open wounds, exposed, sensitive, raw. But wounds do not heal by being scratched. They heal in stillness, in protection, in time, under the care of inner control. When you train yourself to endure emotional discomfort without needing to relieve it immediately, you begin to build something deeper than happiness. You build equanimity, a balanced soul, a mind that no longer sees pleasure as salvation or pain as doom, a character rooted so firmly in principle that nothing external can uproot it. And this is where the modern mind struggles most. It has been trained to escape discomfort at all costs. A moment of boredom? Swipe. A flicker of anxiety? Medicate. A hint of confrontation? Avoid. The Stoic rejects this, not out of cruelty, but out of understanding. If you run from discomfort, you run from growth. Emotional control is the foundation of all other discipline. Without it, you cannot stay committed when the motivation fades. You cannot speak with clarity when the heat rises. You cannot listen when pride is wounded. The undisciplined mind is at the mercy of its own storms. The disciplined one becomes the eye of the storm, calm, centered, aware. You were not born with this power. It is earned. Through friction, through repetition, through the daily decision to pause when you could react, to breathe when you could rage, to endure when you could escape. These small decisions, made consistently, forge an unshakable core. You begin to see things as they are, not as your emotions distort them. The insult is not about you. The failure is not final. The discomfort is not dangerous. Clarity replaces narrative. Presence replaces panic. And from that space, you can act wisely, justly, effectively. This is how the Stoic navigates a chaotic world, not by denying its storms, but by becoming a stable ship. Not by removing all emotion, but by knowing which ones to trust and which to dismiss. Not by escaping pain, but by integrating it into strength. The truth is, emotional control is not just a tool. It is a form of spiritual architecture. It is how you build the soul that cannot be moved, not by praise, not by loss, not by fear. You do not need the world to understand you, or affirm you, or comfort you, because you have something far greater, your own command of self. And so you walk into each day not hoping it will go your way, but ready to face it, no matter how it goes. That readiness, that calm preparation, is the mark of the trained mind, the Stoic mind. It does not need approval to act with virtue. It does not need reward to do what is right. It acts from principle, not impulse, from clarity, not confusion. This is why emotional control is the new superpower, not because it makes you invincible, but because it makes you free. Free from reactivity, free from ego, free from the chaos of the world, because your inner world no longer mirrors it. The one who masters this control does not need to dominate others. He does not need to be loud. He does not need to be understood. His presence speaks. His actions
speak louder. He does not chase outcomes, he shapes his character. And when the storms come, as they always will, he stands in silence, still, unmoved. Not because he feels nothing, but because he governs everything that matters.